You're listening to Podcasting for Financial Professionals, the show where smart advisors, planners, CPAs, and money experts learn how to use podcasting as their most powerful marketing tool. I'm Virginia Elder, podcast strategist and founder of Podcast Abundance. Since 2019, I've helped financial professionals stop wasting time on random marketing tactics and instead build a podcast that increases authority, expands reach, and consistently drives leads. And right now, you're heading into back-to-back conferences this season, and I have created a free conference toolkit to help you turn those handshakes into real business by using your podcast and your podcast content to stay top of mind long after the event has ended. Grab it at podcastabundance.com/conference-toolkit. Today, I'm joined by Mike Montague, a leading voice in human-first AI marketing and founder of Avenue 9, an AI-powered agency helping small businesses scale without burning bridges or blowing their budgets. Mike has worked with huge brands like LinkedIn, Uber, Zoom, and even the Kansas City Chiefs. And he's been in the space for a while with several different shows, so his podcasts have accumulated more than 3.7 million downloads. In our conversation, Mike shares how to use AI the right way so that it amplifies your voice instead of replacing it, why stories build trust faster than teaching and telling, how to identify those trigger moments that drive your potential clients to actually move and take action, and the smart, compliant way to fold AI into your marketing. Plus, we go behind the scenes of his own shows where he reveals how boosted clips, quizzes, and LinkedIn messaging help him turn podcast listeners into real business. And here's the kicker. You'll want to stick around until the end because that's where Mike shares the most actionable strategies you can start using right away to actually capture those lurkers on your LinkedIn profile. Mike, thanks so much for being here with me today.
So good to be here. I love a good meta podcast about podcasting, for sure.
Yes. Well, I'm excited to talk with you because I get a lot of questions about what is compliant use of AI when we're talking about financial advisors. All business owners in general are just kind of suddenly being like thrown into the world of AI, and some of us aren't so good at using it yet. So help us.
It's a hard one. We're going to have to go deep a little bit because I feel like the answer is it depends.
Yes.
So we can stop the podcast here and just say it depends on what business you're in, what you're trying to do, and how to do it. Or we can dive into a bunch of different scenarios and look at it from like what you're trying to do with your podcast, what you're trying to make, who you're trying to reach. You know, the laws in your industry or regulation, all those kind of things matter a lot here.
They do. So the number one thing that really garners trust with listeners is a good story. And yes, that story has lessons in it, maybe some numbers in it, something that the listener can identify with. But we also have to be really protective of our clients' information. And so how on earth can we properly use AI to create these stories? And maybe we're creating a post on LinkedIn or a newsletter or a podcast, but keep our clients' information safe, not put anything into, let's just say ChatGPT or whatever that could get us in trouble, but also get a really good story out of it.
The best way to build trust with somebody is to be able to tell their story, your client's story, better than they can tell it themselves. If you're a professional, you should know what's going on in their world. You've done this for maybe dozens or hundreds of people. They've only done it once for themselves. So you should know more about their situation than they do. And when you can kind of read their mind, I on stage I do some magic tricks and stuff and have fun with this because I can predict things and stuff. And when you can get that good at what you do, people go, wow, there's some magic here. I'm just going to trust this person to do it for me because I obviously don't know as much as they do. And they know my world. I trust them to just handle it for me. And I think that's what we're looking for as somebody that's in professional services. So there's a couple more things to that. One, I love this book called The Trusted Advisor. It's about 25 years old, maybe now, 20 years old, by Charles Green. He has an equation there that trust is credibility plus reliability plus the intimacy or like personal understanding of the specific situation divided by how selfish you are, your own self-interest. And so I think when you're thinking about telling the story or doing your podcast, it's like, oh, if you're showing up every week on a podcast, you're building your credibility because you're sharing your knowledge, you're getting to know people, you're, talking to people in the industry. You're building your reliability because you're showing that I'm still in business. I've been doing this over and over every week. They get to know you intimately because you're sharing personal stories. You're hearing, your voice in their ears, and you're giving away all of this information for free, which means it's a very selfless act. So I think podcasting and telling these stories this way is one of the biggest ways you can build trust as well. Your question was about how do we do this without sharing information? And I think about the old Jeff Foxworthy routine, the you might be a redneck.
Mm-hmm. Gosh,
He doesn't actually call out any relatives, right? He doesn't say, "Oh, cousin Eddie has a car up on blocks in the one." He says, "You might be a redneck if you've had a car up on blocks in your front yard. If there's a broken refrigerator next to it, then you might be a redneck." And that's how I think about storytelling. It's like, you might be a good client for me, or you might need to call me if you've had trouble paying your taxes before in the past that didn't plan for it appropriately. You might be a good client for me if you've experienced some sort of windfall amount in a great business deal or another thing or this, or when I work with real estate agents, I talk about most people, I think, look too small. They look at like, oh, I'm a real estate agent. You need to hire me if you're buying or selling a house. Well, that's great. But most of the time, by the time people are buying and selling a house, they already have a real estate agent. They've already talked to somebody. So I think we need to think a little bit about what are these stories that are trigger events that happen before people need our services. So like, are you going through a divorce? Did you get a big promotion? Did you sell or merge your company and have a liquidity event? What are some things that happen in our stories that we could tell before they need to hire us? And if we get really good at that kind of stuff, we get really good at building a lead engine for ourselves.
I love that. Really looking at maybe your top 10 clients or your favorite people to work with and trying to identify that trigger event, as you said. So I think that's a really cool concept as like the baseline of how do I create this story where it touches base with these potential buyers. So I'm just imagining, okay, maybe I have some sensitive personal information from my clients because I work with their finances, whether it be business or personal finances. And so I'm going to pull up ChatGPT and I'm going to rename this person Sally. And I'm going to put in her salary range. I'm going to put in a range of her Roth IRA balance. And I'm going to just say, okay, she's medium and aggressive investor. She's not really aggressive. And I'm going to start to tell her story without her actual information to ChatGPT. And, I can get so many characters in. And at some point I need to actually give it the prompt of like what to do with this story and what I'm trying to get out of it. But there's a lot there that I have to feed it in order to get a good response. I can't just give it a one-liner, which I think is what a lot of people are trying to do. So help me through this imagined scenario and give us some more tips on how do we actually get what we want using this story and being careful about what we put in.
First of all, I would say obviously don't put any actual numbers, financial information, or private stuff into any AI system, whether it says it's private and secure or not. They all seem to be leaking and training models with them, and they are not secure in the way that we would talk about banking secure. So that's number one. Number two, though, is in order to get good output, there's a few things we need to do. I call it context engineering. So AI has this great knowledge of everything that's ever been published on the internet. It knows a lot about financial services, right? So we can ask it to do a lot, but what it's going to do is use probability to predict the most average, normal sort of generic situation. And if we want it to speak in our voice or tell our client's story, we need to give it the context around what that is. What is your niche? What makes you a better or different financial planner than anybody else on the planet? Also, why is your client's situation different? So there's a couple of things here that I would say. Number one is just go ahead and pay the $20 a month to ChatGPT to get the pro version, because it adds a lot more context windows, lets you set up custom instructions. You can even build a custom GPT for yourself where you can upload like your website or PDF documents or your company marketing materials and say, hey, here's everything about me. I downloaded my LinkedIn profile for one of mine, and I'm a big nerd, so I'm not necessarily suggesting this, but I was in professional development for the last 15 years. So I uploaded my DISC profile, my Myers-Briggs, my like Strengths Finders report, all of these different things about me and my personality, books that I had written, and said, hey, here's all the transcripts from my previous podcasts. Here's everything that you could possibly know about me, Mike Montague. Keep this in your memory so that if I ask you a question, I want you to write in my voice. It'll sound like me and it'll know kind of what I know and what my area is. And it's gotten really good, like scary good.
That's really cool advice. I've like never thought about disc profile and all of those like personal things, but that's really good.
And then I do kind of use it. We're getting off track here, but then I can even use it for things in my business. Like tell me what my weakness is, that why is my business going to fail? Why am I going to succeed? What makes my advertising agency different than any other one on the planet? And I can start honing in on some messages or stories, or I could say, what's a good idea for me for a blog post, or ask me some questions. So that's where I was going to go next. Tip number 2 for me is you can ask the AI to give you questions to answer. So I love using dictation and stuff too, because I'm a talker. That's one of the reasons I like podcasting and stuff. So I'll just say, I'm trying to create a case study on XYZ client to do this. Ask me the questions you need to know in order to create the best case study possible. And you can also kind of put in your parameters. Say, I need to anonymize the data, not use any real names, and I need to make sure that this tells the story of this whatever financial product I'm trying to pitch. And then it'll ask me questions, and I just click the buttons on my keyboard and I talk back to it, or you can do it directly in ChatGPT, turn the microphone on, and I answer the questions. Okay, it's for this type of client. Here's the situation, all that stuff that you outlined that gives it more context about what I'm trying to make. Once I do that, I find that it gets really good output. So I've kind of defined who I am, who my ideal client is, and then what I'm trying to make or do, and added some more details around that. And it does take a little bit of back and forth. For me, it takes more setup than it does. I don't do that every time. I do that once with the custom GPT, and then I don't ever have to do it again. That's a lot easier.
Yeah. And that's kind of that work now and save your time later, mentality. That's why you build a website, or that's why you do any of this initial work, so that after that, for weeks and weeks and weeks and years on end, it's going to know who you are and kind of grasp who this person is and the perspective that they have on their business and all of that.
And now sometimes I can do that one-line prompt. I can jump in and say, hey, write a LinkedIn post for me and my style promoting whatever I want to promote this week or something like that. And when I do that, it's actually really good because I've given it enough context and situations. And I even paste back in. This is another pro tip. When I put something out, I go, it's not quite like me. I got to go take out the M dashes. I want to fix a couple things, maybe, add a funny joke or something. Then I paste what I edited back into ChatGPT and say, hey, note the changes for next time. Here's what I actually posted on LinkedIn. And so I'm training it like an intern or an employee of like, here's what good looks like. Here's what I want you to do next time. And here's all the context so that you can do a better job in your role. And I think people miss that because they still kind of see it as a tool or a magic trick versus like, this is an employee. This is an artificial intelligence that you can teach things to.
Yeah. Okay. I love that idea of actually giving it the feedback of what you edited, what you actually posted. Even I was working with mine the other day for LinkedIn, like private message prompts. Like sometimes I literally like, this person looks awesome and I definitely want to get in touch with them, but I have no idea what to say. And it's like so weird. I'm like, hi, you don't know me. Like, it's just so weird. So, but there are definitely like, it tries to give you some prompts and you're like, yeah, even that's weird. I don't think I would say that.
So adding context to those, I mentioned the professional development. I worked in sales training for 15 years. So a lot of people listening to this are probably aware of Sandler. We're pretty big in the financial planning world. And I was the one writing the courses for the international team at home office and stuff. And so what I think is cool is now these tools have internet capabilities. You can paste that person's LinkedIn profile into ChatGPT and say, hey, you know about me. Here's who I'm trying to reach out to. Can you do some quick, deep research about them and their company and give me a compelling reason to reach out to them or an interesting opening line to start a conversation? And it'll do a really good job of finding out and giving it a personalized pitch.
Wow. And that's on the paid version. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, there are, limited uses of those on the free. But again, like I said, for $20 a month, this is going to save you hours and hours of time. So it's well worth it. Just pay the $20. That's one fast food stop at this point.
And not just the time, but like the brain power also of like, what do I say? And, rather than you like spinning at your desk for 5-10 minutes, maybe you have to walk away, take a break and think about it and come back, like all that wasted time and energy. So I think that could be really helpful.
I do this for all my sales presentations as well. So I record my prospecting calls or my sales calls with the clients and it, Zoom transcribes it all. I take the transcription, upload it into my custom GPT and I say, hey, based on what I talked about with this prospect, what should I pitch? How could I customize my normal sales presentation to fit this prospect? It spits out the answer. And then I use a tool called Gamma. It's really awesome. The Gamma app, it will make a custom presentation just for this client in about 2 minutes. It uses AI to generate the images. You can put your brand theme in there. It'll remember all of your prompts, or you can paste the outline from ChatGPT. And now all of a sudden I have a custom landing page, pitch, or PDF, PowerPoint presentation, anything I want that's specifically designed for this person. And I'll slap their name on it and their logo or their picture and stuff. And people are really impressed. And I do it in about 5 minutes. So
yeah, it looks like, I'm sure like it took you hours to build, because it would take you hours if you were doing it manually. Are you heading to conferences this year thinking, this time it's going to be different? I've got a plan. I'll actually follow up. Maybe you've even spent some time pre-conference and marked names in the app or saved business names that'll be there. But let's be honest, what is your actual follow-up plan? What are you going to say in that DM that gets the conversation moving after the conference? This is where most people fail. The conference energy fades, life takes over, and suddenly you're stuck in the doom spiral of, what do I say now? I've been there, but I got the solution. The Conference Toolkit shows you exactly how to turn every handshake, business card, or LinkedIn connection into a lasting relationship. nurturing them into paying clients, collaborators, or partners using content you've already created. This free PDF gives you proven follow-up formulas to keep you top of mind, build authority, and make sure your best connections don't slip away. And there's even a companion podcast episode I made just for this purpose to help you get creative and actually stick with it as you're following up. Grab your free conference toolkit at podcastabundance.com/conference-toolkit. Get it now before your next event so you can go through the PDF, listen to that companion podcast episode, and integrate the content you've already created as your follow-up plan. You know, you're right. This time is going to be different because you'll have the conference toolkit in your back pocket. The link is in the show notes. So again, just like a quick note there, I'm thinking like, yeah, maybe a CPA, or maybe it just depends on what was discussed in that call. You may have to pull that transcript and edit it yourself. And that could be a time suck, for lack of a better word. But then once you get it into ChatGPT or Gamma or any of these other tools, that could really save you the time.
The AI summaries are really good at taking out the sensitive information, I've noticed, but I don't know if they're compliant. They say that they are, but if the AI is already creating the summary, it means it had the information in the first place from the call. So I don't know. I would watch that a little bit.
And I think some professions are limited based on what AI they can use to even record like their Zoom calls, for example. So just check with compliance if that is a concern.
Even you can do it with your personal notes too, and just say whatever notes you took on the call. Say, again, dictate to ChatGPT and say, here's what we talked about. Here's their situation. Help me customize a pitch for them. And you can do it that way too.
Cool. Okay, so we've talked ChatGPT a lot. I think that's just like the main one that's on everybody's head. You mentioned the Gamma app. That sounds really cool. What are some other, just like one or two, don't overwhelm us. What are some other really useful, awesome tools that we should check out in our free time and that might help us in our business?
I recommend Whisper Flow. It's spelled weird. It's WISPR and not Whisper. But if you Google Whisper Flow, it should come up. That's the dictation tool that I talked about. It's better than Apple or any other Windows dictation stuff. It'll format into bullets. It remembers stuff that you do. You can do even shortcuts in there if you just want to say like, you can create a shortcut for like a signature. And then if you just say signature, it inserts that. Or for legal disclaimers and stuff, you just say, anytime I say disclaimer, I want you to just insert this is not, financial or legal advice, line, and put it in whatever you're making and stuff. So there's really cool tools. It saved me carpal tunnel syndrome and just hours of time just typing stuff in. The other one then is Grammarly, which has gotten really good with its AI about just fixing all the grammar, improving the writing. You can have it do it in different styles if you want it to be legally compliant and grammatically correct, or you can use a more, casual or professional tone. I'm not a great speller, and that just sometimes I misspell the word so bad that autocorrect can't even figure out what word I was trying to say. If you're one of those people, Grammarly, again, for like $20 a month, just saves me a lot of headache and saves me from looking like an idiot. Then we get into all the other podcasting tools. So we're recording this on Riverside. I also use Descript. They kind of do the exact same thing, but transcriptions, editing, writing podcast titles, descriptions, tagging keywords, any type of, I mostly use it for video shorts, turning long format into short format stuff. Just saves me hundreds of dollars a month that I used to pay 2 years ago, and certainly hours and hours of time that it would take somebody to go through a podcast and tag keywords or write descriptions or, guest bio, stuff like that.
Yeah, I do recommend Descript for like the DIY podcast crowd. Yeah, and I don't use it anymore. The team edits episodes and I don't police what they do as long as the end result is good. But, if I ever needed to control F and like find a section of, what was said where, because, we can't publish that or whatever the thing was. That was always really helpful. And then I did like their like AI shorts section. I felt like it was pretty easy to edit as far as like the way the captions were on screen and things like that. There is a lot of improvement still needed in the area in the video editing space as far as AI goes. So I want to circle like with that in mind back to the question of like how like either I don't know what to say or I need to turn all of these thoughts into a phrase that I like that you say is called a scalable story. So, how can we, with a podcast in mind, if that's what we're launching or growing, what is a strategy that we can use with AI? Or how can AI help us with a strategy? Or maybe you would help us with that AI strategy. So, help us understand how that might work.
All of the above there. So I think about going back and forth between long format and short format a lot. What I do with my company at Avenue 9 is the actual marketing strategy part of like, we got to figure out who we are, who we serve, what the problem is we're fixing, and like what our edge in the market is before we do anything. Otherwise, we're just making stuff that makes stuff. And it's not going to end in growing business at all. So I like that part of it. I do think that goes kind of without saying that you got to decide what kind of show it is you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish with it. And we can talk about some of those formats and stuff too. But then I think about expanding it. Like if could I get really good and use AI to lock in on like what a one sentence description of my business is. I am the CPA who is different because X, or I work with people who blank and I help them because of X. If I can do that in one sentence, then I can start stretching it out. If I have longer time, in sales, we use an elevator pitch or a 30-second commercial and say, okay, well, maybe here's 3 to 5 things that people experience when they work with me. And then I can turn that into a longer story and say, maybe it's a half hour podcast, or I turn it into an hour long webinar, or I've written a couple of books and things, which are kind of in the 3 to 4 hour range, like a course or a book or something longer. And then as you interview more people and your show takes on time, like now, one of my first podcasts has over 800 episodes. That's a lot. That's like 400 hours worth of material that I've created as I stretched out that same framework and story over 800 episodes that were 30 minutes long. You can also do the other way. So I kind of think about it that as the generative stuff, and AI is pretty good at taking an idea and helping you stretch it into longer and longer pieces. But it gets watered down. I think about that like concentrated orange juice. Like if you got a really powerful idea, great, we can water it down a little bit and it'll be better actually because now it's not as strong for people. It fits their taste and where they're at. But if you start with a weak idea, AI waters it down, and now it's just not going to taste very good. It's just going to be lame and boring and bland to everybody. And I see that a lot with AI stuff. The opposite is also true. What I do next is I call degenerative AI, just kind of a funny term that I made up to think about. Well, if we have a podcast inventory or if we have hundreds of clients, we can actually boil that down to the concentrated orange juice and think about like help us hone our message or come up with cool stuff in a concentrated way that becomes really powerful. One of the tools we didn't mention was Google Notebook LM will let you upload up to 50 sources on something and then it'll distill it down for you. And I think that's a really cool tactic as well. It's free too, so just go to notebooklm.google and you can sign up for free with your Google account and then play with it a little bit.
Well, and I think the biggest thing is that even with knowing their perspective and having a few stories of clients' experiences and things like that. Someone might be sitting there thinking about, what do I make? Like, what all can I tell ChatGPT or any tool to make based on this story? And I think there's a little bit of overwhelm that happens there. You know, if you are one track minded and you're like, I need a podcast episode, okay, that's great. But then what? Because if you're not asking that question, I feel like you're not fully using all of what's available to you.
I agree, especially in today's world now where we can use AI to multiply all these other formats. I think people get stuck for one of two reasons. They either think they need to be everywhere. So they're like, oh my gosh, to grow my business, I need TikTok shorts. And I also need to do LinkedIn, and I got to do YouTube, and I got to do a podcast, and I got to do a blog, and I got to send emails, and just all of this stuff. You're like, oh, I need white papers and downloads and case studies and stuff too. And you're like, it's too much. You freak out and you feel overwhelmed. Or they're missing the fit between their personality and the best format for them. So maybe they're not trying to do everything, but they're trying to do the wrong thing. So I mentioned earlier, I grew up on radio. I love interviews. I love podcasting. It's easy for me to talk about what I like. I like having a guest or a host to help ask me questions and clarify my thinking and get my perspective. It's just really easy for me to do something like this for an hour or a half hour, and then translate that into all the other formats that I need. So I'll take the transcript from the interview and I'll turn that into a blog post, an email campaign, the social posts. I'll create the clips for social media, and I'll do all the other stuff. But I just spent my energy on podcasting, which I'm great at. If that is not your thing, then do the thing that is you. So if you like writing and you're like, I don't like being live on camera and trying to get it in one take. I want to sit down and make sure it's perfect and write this whole script and all of this other work. Or if you like video, or you don't like being with a guest, or you, I don't know, want to talk to yourself on a walk or in the shower or something, just capture it and then use AI to create all of those other posts. So when I think about something long format, like a podcast or a book, I think about, how can I either like write a book and then break that into a million other content pieces, or how can I kind of blog my way or podcast my way to a book by creating these little smaller pieces and then adding them together into a larger.
Yeah. So, okay, perfect. Because with that being said, there's so many formats and reasons why you could podcast. It could have an end date or an end goal, or it could be this like weekly thing that you sign up for that you might do forever. And some people might be overwhelmed by whichever of those ideas, but I think what you did with How to Succeed built your podcasting experience, and you learned a lot of lessons. That was a corporate podcast. And then you had this kind of passion project called Playful Humans, where you specifically used a podcast to help you write a book. Now, I know some financial advisors have been told, hey, you need a book. That's like the number one way to raise your authority. And so they've got this book on their mind, but then they're also looking at podcasting like we talked about earlier. How am I supposed to do all of the things? So to use one to help you do the other with this goal in mind, I would love to hear about that project, the Playful Humans, if you don't mind.
I came up with this idea that it wanted to be like my legacy project. I thought for a fun game, like playful book that is my sort of manifesto on the best way to live and how to have the most fun in your life and career, that I was going to do 52 tips. 52 is great because there's 52 weeks in a year, and you could just read one little kind of blog thing a week, and you could, work through the book in the course of a year. I could also split those up into weekly episodes or interviews or blogs or other ideas. Also, there's 52 playing cards and a deck of cards. So my book is split up into 4 sections based on the suits of the poker cards, and the heart one is about connections with other humans. The spade one is about building your physical and mental conditioning in life, and the diamonds are about creativity and passions and stuff. And so I think there is this cool idea that I could have like, okay, 52 of these individual tips. And so I started writing kind of what my main ideas were. And I don't know how many I started with, but maybe like 13 to 20 or so ideas that I wanted to incorporate into the book as kind of my life's motto, mission. If I ran into a great quote or a fun line, like we've shared some of them so far when I got degenerative engineering, I'll just note and I'll be like, oh, I'm going to keep this in this Evernote notebook over here of like, I like this idea of content creation. So I did this for Playful Humans, and it was like, oh, here's a definition of play that I like. And I started interviewing people and reading books. So I read over 30 of the top books on play and happiness and flow and doing your best work and career. And then I started interviewing those authors, but also people that I wanted. I interviewed Justin Guarini. He lost to Kelly Clarkson on the first American Idol. And he talks now about confidence and what it's like to lose in front of like 100 million people watching you get second place on American Idol. That's a really cool story. And I'll be like, oh, I like this from him. Or the DJ DC Glenn from Tag Team. They did Whoomp, There It Is, and he did the Super Bowl commercial where they came out of retirement and did the sprinkles on Scoop, There It Is, on the Super Bowl commercial, and it won commercial of the year, and he got this resurgence and stuff in his career now in his 40s and stuff. I was like, oh, that's fun. Being willing to take like your one hit, the thing that everybody knows you for, and make fun of it and make your own parody on a Super Bowl commercial is an interesting thought. Like, what could I learn from that? And I interviewed a guy that surfs with his dog, or people that have different influencer careers, or voiceover actors, magicians, jugglers, all kinds of cool people doing fun things. And as I got through there, I started adding to my list until I got to 52. And then I used all those transcripts from the podcast and I put them into Google Notebook, and I said, which interview would be best for each of these 52 chapters, and help me write the outlines and summaries. And I started just using AI and all this information. I'm somebody that likes to dump a lot of context in and then filter it down to that concentrated orange juice. So by the end, I had ChatGPT help me write each chapter, and I went through and I was like, can you pull a famous quote by somebody like Thomas Edison or Steve Martin that fits this idea that I'm talking about? And I had all of these jokes that I did over 200 episodes. Which of the 200 dad jokes that I've done on the episodes would be best to fit this chapter? And I just collected all this information to build it. My point is, if you collect enough of these pieces, and if you do this repeatedly enough, you build your authority, your credibility over time, you get enough assets that then writing the book was a pretty easy process, actually. I always start with these tentpole ideas of like, what's the show? What are the 4 things of the book that I'm really trying to say? What are the 3 areas of my business that are most attractive? What are the products that I do? What are the 3 common problems I solve? Like keeping it very simple first, and then finding all of the scattered pieces underneath it and say, okay, which of these fit underneath these tent poles in these buckets, and collect them over time. And then if you do it long enough and you help enough clients, or you talk to enough people, or you write enough blogs, or create enough ideas over time, you start filling in that full story. And that to me is the kind of easiest way to do it.
Yeah, and I think so much of business is this longevity game, and that's just what it is like, not who can create the most noise, but who can continue to do your thing and outlast everybody else who's going to go out of business. And in time, you're outlasting them because you're better at it, because you're more efficient, because you're using new tools, because you're staying up on skills and education, and you're serving people better. And you get better with that craft as you go on. And I think that's really that longevity game of, hey, is your business going to make it?
Yeah, and you don't try and boil the ocean on day one. Like you just put a little bit of effort in over time, and you get that compounding interest for all your audience. That's like, um, that adds up, and it makes a big difference over time when you just put a little bit away in your marketing bucket and your story collector, and you be this curator of ideas, and eventually you got an amazing library at the end.
So let's jump forward a little bit and talk about your Human First AI Marketing podcast. That is your business, your show that's building that business now. And with all your podcast experience, I'm sure that you've had time and put in the right amount of energy to really create this good concept and structure and strategy for your show. So will you take us behind the scenes of how you're using your podcast to build your business?
Sure. There are a few things here too. First of all, yeah, I knew the podcasting part was going to be easy for me. So I wanted a theme for the show and something that I would either attract people with or disqualify people with. And so my show is the Human First AI Marketing Show. I feel like there's plenty of people out there trying to do AI to create Terminator robots and all these autonomous agents and stuff that just go out there and they capture leads, and we're going to, replace all the people in your business or help you as a small business owner just make millions of dollars without actually doing any work. I think that's hype. I think that's overrated. And that's not what I want to do anyway. I'm a people person, and you can tell with my background and experience. I want to work with people that empower humans. I call it the Iron Man approach rather than the Terminator approach. Iron Man is this funny Tony Stark that wraps himself in technology, and he has Jarvis AI in his ear telling him stuff he wouldn't otherwise know. And he becomes the superhero as the human rather than replacing him with this robot. So that's what I wanted the show to be about. Now, inside of that, the second idea is that marketing and AI are so big that they have to be a team sport. There's no way that any one person could know everything there is to know about AI, and there's no way that any one person could know everything there is to know about marketing. So now I get to bring on these AI experts or these marketing experts and learn from them and say, hey, I'm going to be really good about this generative AI marketing strategy for small business, but I'm not going to worry about agents or enterprise level stuff or predictive analytics or all the other crazy AI areas. There's crypto and blockchain stuff, and like that's not me. But I can interview a blockchain expert and I can learn a little bit about how that they do that. Or video is another huge thing that is just video, its own beast. I can't possibly know everything there is to know about AI video, but I can interview those people. And same thing about marketing is there's email marketing experts and social media experts and all kinds of strategy or e-commerce experts, and they're all going to have their own lane. So as long as I stay in mine, I can interview people on a every weekly basis to kind of add to my knowledge base and expertise or talk about how it applies to this human first thing. And then in that, I'm building my network. I'm talking to people. I'm solving problems for a small business. I'm building my credibility. And mostly I'm trying to partner with these people that I bring on the show to say, hey, I know what you do. You do the blockchain stuff or you do the AI agents. I don't do that. I'm happy to pass business over to you. If you pass business over to me for people that aren't sure what kind of story they want to tell, how to build context around their business or get you the data that you need in order to do your, analytics thing, that's what I specialize in. Pass them over to me. And that's really how I've grown my business so far.
So that concept of, of course, always learning, but then being really strategic with who your guests are from a perspective of creating partnerships, whether that becomes affiliates or referral direct, or even if you two go in together on a specific package product and they say, okay, well, when they buy this, package off of my website, you're half of that package. That's a really cool strategy.
I think there's kind of two that work when you grow up for business. One is either interviewing your clients. So if you have a local business or you want to talk about whatever it is, accounting for a certain industry, just interview people that would be good clients for you. And then you basically get to do a sales interview or a pain interview and ask them all the questions they're having trouble with in accounting, and you can get clients right off your guest. The other one, though, is like, who serves people that I also serve? Who calls on the other businesses that I serve? Who's going in the same direction as me, and it's kind of like people like us do things like this, and I wanted to talk to people that were had the same philosophy as me for AI and marketing and is going the same direction. And then we can work together on those things.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about like the growth of your show. Have you tested any marketing or like how are you getting the word out about your podcast and building your client base?
Most of it is organic mixed in with some boosted posts and stuff. So I've kind of a little bit lucky in the fact that I've had those previous shows and a decent following on LinkedIn, which is my primary channel and stuff. And I've built some other things before. So I kind of knew how to do that and had some people that were wanting to find out what my next show was, which is great. It's a decent start. But the rest of it comes from just slowly getting other people aware of the show. And that comes from enabling my guests. So the biggest thing that I do is every guest that I have on, I give them a Google Drive folder that has all the highlight clips, the transcripts, all the social posts. I tag them and all the stuff that I'm doing. And again, because I'm trying to reach the same audience, I'm trying to interview people that have bigger followings than me or are selling to the same people. And then the third one is just sometimes you got to pay to play. So boost a YouTube video for $50 a week, or even $5 will get it, some views. And same thing with LinkedIn posts, boost those with a small ad budget. I usually don't do over $100, but just a little paid spend gives it a little gas on the fire. If you want to be even more conservative than that, sometimes I wait to see which ones are good. And then if I see an episode or a short hit and I was like, oh, this short has 5,000 views organically, then I'll boost that one and I'll spend the $100 on that rather than spending $5 on 20 bad ones. So I think that helps me get traction.
So when you're talking about boosting a post, I'm assuming that's, maybe a reel or something that you've pulled from your podcast episodes, post it on your personal LinkedIn profile, right? And then going in kind of the back end of LinkedIn and boosting that. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, put your credit card in there and they'll let you spend however much you want. They'll recommend $50, so you can do less or more depending on what your current situation is. And you can also target a wider or smaller audience. I know some people that will target the whole world on YouTube and they don't care if they get 10,000 views from India because it looks like they got 10,000 views and none of them are people that could buy from you. Or you can target your specific city or state and people that are in your profession. And especially on LinkedIn, if you're in B2B stuff, it's like, hey, you can target this exact tiny audience. It'll cost a little bit more for less views, but you'll be getting in front of the right people. So I think you got to decide whether you want to take the wide approach and be an influencer and try and get a whole bunch of followers, or I try to keep it pretty niche and spend my money on people that are actually going to have a chance to buy from me.
Yeah. And I think B is the better advice for most people listening. Of course, if you have specific questions, we can talk through scenarios, call up Mike or call me.
And sometimes you just want to feel good and get a bunch of views on your video too. So
you need that ego boost.
Sometimes it's been a long week or a long month and I need an ego boost. I'll spend $100 to feel good that I got 1,000 views on this video.
So following that, okay, let's say you boost a post or whatever. How are you ensuring that those views, or let's say people are commenting on it or whatever, how are you ensuring that they're then actually getting into your business's ecosystem? Are you collecting emails with a certain strategy, or like what's happening after that boost?
Yes, my favorite one is quizzes. The more fun one is the Playful Humans book. So if you go to playfulhumans.com/quiz, there's a personality profile and you answer these 10 questions about your favorite book, movie, what you would do for fun on the weekend. And it'll give you a playful personality. Maybe you're a sports person, or maybe you're a joke teller, or maybe you're a social person. You like a cocktail party. And you can enter your email, or you can just skip that part and get the results. But that helps me build my email list, and I promote that in every episode of the podcast and on social and all of those kind of things. Did the same for Avenue 9. So it's avenue9, the number 9.com/quiz. And there's an AI readiness quiz for businesses where you answer 10 questions and you'll get a report on, how tech savvy and ready you are to apply AI in your marketing. Those are kind of my best tips. The other one that I wrote in my book on LinkedIn is just replying to every comment and starting conversations. Really, we're not doing this for comments and likes. We're doing it to start conversations with our ideal clients. So if somebody likes your post, send them a little DM and say, "Hey, Virginia, thanks for liking it. What'd you like about it? How come this one caught your attention?" And try to start conversations. And most people, 99.99% of people, skip that step. But imagine if you were at a real life networking event and somebody walked up and were like, "Hey, I love that podcast you did the other day," and you just turned around and walked away and didn't say anything. That's rude, right? But that's what we're doing virtually. When somebody puts a heart on our post, they're saying, "I love this one," and we're ignoring it. So if you really have time, you want to be proactive, or you got an intern or somebody looking for something to do, like, there is money in those comments and conversations. I guarantee it. If you follow up with each one of those, some people will just say, "I was just supporting you. Oh, I love the title," or whatever. Great. Other people will go, "You know what? I've been trying to tell my spouse for years that they should, do this." And I sent that video to somebody, and you go, "Oh, interesting. Tell me more about that." And now you're in a conversation.
So I really like this two-pronged approach, and thank you for taking us behind the scenes there, because on one hand, after you boost a post or run an ad, or, there's multiple ways of pay to play. And I do think it's starting to really be a necessary component of business at this point, even, producing content, produce a weekly blog, do a podcast, whatever. We still are faced with this challenge of getting seen because there is so much out there. And so, okay, step A, you pay to play, but then after that, step B kind of breaks into a couple of segments. You've got this direct messaging strategy where you are talking back to the people that like and comment or heart your post or whatever, just a quick note to say thank you. It doesn't have to be awkward. And then the other component of that is this lead generating quiz, like you said, something fun that people might want to do. It's not, you skeezily.
Yeah, it's not a hard sell. What I found doesn't work is like send them to the contact us form on your website and request a 30-minute consultation. Nobody wants a sales call. So it doesn't have to be a quiz, but think about something of value that you can lengthen that conversation. I mentioned at the beginning of this of like, they listen to a podcast. What's a longer piece? Is it a white paper? Is it a case study? Is there some sort of course or something that you can make that's of value, a longer thing? Can they join your network and be on an email list? Just something of value that lets them opt in and say, "Hey, I want to hear more from this person."
As always, the juiciest part was there at the end, and I just absolutely love that. Thank you so much. Give us the quick rundown of where to listen and find and follow you.
Yeah, the good news is I'm an internet marketer, so it's not hard to find. You can type in Mike Montague or Avenue 9 wherever you search or watching and listening to this, and you'll find it. But the Human First AI Marketing Podcast is the show that I'm currently doing. It's super fun. It's aimed at small and medium-sized businesses about nerding out on what's new and current in AI and what's possible and what we should or shouldn't do with AI in our marketing. And then LinkedIn is my channel of choice. So you can follow me or the podcast on any of the other channels. But if you want to reach me, find Mike Montague on LinkedIn. That's where I connect with everybody.
Thanks for spending time with me today on Podcasting for Financial Professionals. If you walked away with even one idea that helps you get more visible, increase your authority, or turn your podcast into a real lead generating machine, then your time was worth it. Here's the thing. Most folks go to networking events and conferences every year, collecting business cards or marking names down in the conference app, and never see a potential client come from it, because when you leave the event and get back to normal life, following up with those old connections is just an entire struggle bus of its own. A, you're not the only one, and B, I've got a solution for you because I was that person too. Off the struggle bus you go when you grab the free conference toolkit. This free PDF download and companion podcast episode teach you my secret follow-up techniques step by step so you can start using your podcast and any content you create to turn those new conference connections into long-term lasting relationships and paying clients. Get that free download at podcastabundance.com/conference-toolkit.